Okay, season 2, here we come.
The Kardashians are back on Hulu.
We're back, in case you missed us.
This September.
We are starting to talk wedding dresses.
Everything gets elevated.
I do believe in love. When you love, you know you're alive. You have these feelings.
No matter how crazy things are, we're always going to be family.
Now hold your crown up.
The Kardashians Season 2, now streaming only on Hulu.
You made it. Here, finally. Checked out of office to check into the sweet views of that place you've always wanted to go. You know the one. It's nice. Even the kids like it.
This place is so cool.
And they never like it.
Mom, can we go to the pool?
Look at that. Not even asking for the Wi-Fi. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Well, hi, everybody. It's Ed Mann here, the executive producer of the Real Brady Bros podcast. It's your favorite podcast. That's correct. If you were wondering, well, now you know. It's your favorite podcast. Just say that to yourself. Go to sleep at night. Wake up in the morning. Oh, I know my favorite podcast. Okay. This is Q&A. The reason you're hearing my silly voice is because it's a Q&A show. This is number 15. And with me, completely coincidentally, is Barry Williams and Christopher Knight, the Real Brady Bros. Hi, guys.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hey. We've been getting a lot of action on Facebook.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's at Real Brady Bros. It's the Real Brady Bros page. And anyone who wants to go on there, make a comment and form a question, however you want to communicate with the group of us, that's the way to do it. And I mentioned comments because the first part of this Q&A will really be more like a C&A. It's comments and then answers. So these people have heard you guys say things.
What you're going to say is that we need correction. It's not
Don't
really
we
a
all?
C&A as a comment, and it's a correction.
Let's call it that. You're about to be punished. So let's get started. John and Marion.
I always learn best from those answers I got wrong on tests.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's when you turn in the blank blue book that you didn't learn a damn thing. You got to give it a try. Remember that? The blue book.
completely
you know what that is. Okay. Very enjoyable podcast, says John and Marion. And this is where I guess the correction comes in. Joyce Bulifant, who you guys had mentioned, had played the adoptive mom with Ken Berry, Kelly's kids. Well, it was Brooke Bundy, another actress, of course, who played the wife. Miss Bulifant apparently never appeared on the Brady Bunch. She did, however, play the lead character of Marjorie Martin in Sherwood and Lloyd Schwartz's Saturday morning sitcom, Big John, Little John. Now, how about that?
Well, yeah,
I can hardly believe I let that slip by. In my book, Growing Up Brady, when I was researching and pulling it together, and I discovered that, I contacted her, and it wasn't easy. And then I said, Joyce, could you shoot me a photo, a headshot? And like 10 days went by, and I had to follow up again and say, Joyce, there are deadlines here. Is it possible to get a headshot? And she was kind enough to send one along, and it's in my book. And I go through the description that she originally was the number one choice for Carol Brady, and then was eclipsed subsequently. And I don't know who the powers were to invite Florence Henderson.
So what you're saying is that in your book you have it right. Brooke Bundy plays the role in the Kelly Kids episode, which is what we're commenting on, because last week I had said that it was Joyce Bulifant who had played that role. And of course, that is incorrect. And what you're referencing is that Joyce Bulifant was the second choice for Carol.
Was the first choice. And then that was changed. She was going to be, and then Florence Henderson was kind of invited right when things were heating up. And what I was saying too, Chris, you did say that, but I didn't catch it, or maybe I had even agreed. But that sometimes happens in the podcast or the Q&As, because we're kind of off the cuff, we're being casual, we're doing remembering it the best we can in the moment, and sometimes things slip through. But this is what I was thinking about, guys. What do you think about this idea? We intentionally plant things in the podcast that are not accurate, hoping that our astute listeners will catch us on it, and then maybe we could reward them with something. That way, whether it's intentional or not, there's skin in the game for our listeners.
Folks, this is called spin.
You can't make good on a bad.
Barry is spinning
you
right
can't make
now.
good on a bad by throwing money at the problem.
Certainly could use it like that. Our incorrections, our notices that are incorrect, are clearly a way of monitoring whether or not our audience is awake.
Yeah, okay. Well, we know they are because we're hearing about it.
And they were checking to see if you were aware.
We try and keep this nice and friendly. And
Right.
But now, wait a second, because there's a lot of lore here, right? And this is the part that I enjoy the most because it's stuff that you really can't research because it's like hearsay and rumor. So I heard that Joyce Bulifant was the choice if the girls were brunette. And then ultimately, and they had a set of girls, blonde and brunette, same with the boys. And I guess it was all determined by who played the father, which way they were going to go. That was going to set it. So if they went with a brunette man, you'd go with a blonde woman. But Joyce Bulifant was blonde as well.
Yeah,
right?
Joyce was not a brunette.
Well, there goes that one. All right. Merrick's corrects you on the following. I think this might have been on Barry. Maybe they're all on Barry.
No one is safe.
No. The Platters, Barry, were never on Motown. Most of their hit songs were on Mercury Records, but
how could you not know that?
It's
how can our executive producer not know that? Mr. Radio. And you let that go. You were sitting right there and didn't say anything about it.
Funnily enough, both Mercury and Motown are now under the Universal Music umbrella. So finally, in terms of the comment and correction portion of our program, Julie comments, I was 6. It is very sweet, actually. I was 6 when the Brady Bunch came on, and all through my childhood, whenever anyone was mean or bullying to me, I kept waiting for them to come over to my house and apologize Brady style. I think the reason the show is so beloved is that it was the fantasy of a whole family sticking up for each other. Really enjoyed the podcast. And Chris, you look like just all the other kids when you dance. You're way too hard on yourself.
And I look at it now and I agree, although only I know the trauma it took to get to that plateau because it never got any better than that.
Well, I think we're all our own worst critics at the end of the day. I mean, you mentioned my radio thing. I'll go back and the same day I would do a radio show, I'd listen back to it and I go, oh God, why did I say it that way? Oh, could have emphasized that word. Oh, that line didn't work. And then you listen to it like, call it a month later. It's fine.
I agree. I mean, I think artists
do that.
And maybe that's a requirement. Artists especially are hard on themselves.
Well, this is what's kind of enjoyable for us about doing the podcast is that now all these years later, we go back and we can be much more objective watching it. And, I think the show, I get it. I understand it much better than I did when I was, working on it from the inside out and now watching it from the outside in, the relationships and the level of believability and the fun that it was and the kind of the pictures that we painted. And, I end up with a smile on my face.
One last comment on my side on this one. This came from Paul McCartney, who didn't submit a question. I'm just mentioning Paul McCartney because I had seen him on, I think it was the Hulu thing they did on him, where he was sitting with Rick Rubin, the great producer. And they're listening back to tracks and they're pulling back on the lead guitar part and listening to the vocals. And Paul, out of nowhere, simply says, you know what, Rick? I'm a big Beatles fan. He's like, well, what do you mean you're a Beatle? He goes, no, I mean, after all these years now, I've become a huge fan of the Beatles. And you can appreciate it now. He gets it now.
Without that objectivity, it's pretty tough. Let me ask, Barry, do you watch your work, your contemporary work? The work, like if you worked next week, would you watch it when it was on the air?
The answer is sometimes. The TV movie that we did last year for Lifetime, I watched that. Mm-hmm. But typically, I'm only watching if I'm wearing another set of eyes, meaning I have another responsibility. If I'm directing it, or if I am assisting with editing or cutting or that kind of a thing. Or sometimes I would watch dailies, but that's a very different thing than watching it inside the show itself. I will tell you that I don't have the kind of sensitivity to it that I did before. So I'm usually happy to watch it now. I don't always make a point of it.
I don't watch it. I avoid it. I literally avoid it because I come to this rationale that the most unnatural thing maybe it doesn't seem so in our modern lives, for a human to see is themselves, right? We invented mirrors so we can see ourselves, but it's a shock. It's like better that you live by the reaction of others to you, in my mind, than you then start editing yourself to your liking. I mean, the greatest example of that is photographs. Finding your own photograph is, picking out after a photographer has shot headshots, for instance. The worst judge is yourself, because you end up taking out the soul of you and replace it with an idea of self that is not what everybody else sees. Invariably, that's what ends up happening when one judges their own self.
This segues right into Leslie's question as we go into the cues here. What non-Brady work in your career, acting or frankly otherwise, are you most proud of?
Well, I have 3 of them, and they're all musicals. The Music Man and playing the Music Man. There was a wonderful show called City of Angels, and I had the lead in that, and Pippin. Pippin for a number of reasons. It was one of my first efforts, and it was combining all the things I wanted to combine, which was music and the comedy, and it was a very, very hip show directed by Bob Fosse. My first Broadway show and my first Broadway national tour. So I would say that, really stands out in my mind.
That had to be exciting as can be.
I did a series for Norman Lear's company back in '79 called Joe's World.
In New York, right? You moved to New York for that?
No, it was just after that, though, that I would move to New York to do Another World. But no, this was '79. Right before that, I was 80. So I did a series called Joe's World, and it had a lot of potential. I mean, it was sort of a cross between the Waltons and All in the Family. It wasn't like a blue collar Waltons, if you will. A son that's in his dad's business, which is painting, and not wanting to be there and looking. A lot of tension, and it was well written. Mel Tolkien, Larry Ryan, who wrote a few of the Brady Bunch episodes, actually, were our writers, and proud of that work.
Who was Joe?
Not easy to find.
Do you remember?
Raymond Beery. Kay Callan played Mom, and then a very good friend of mine today, Russ Banham, played my best friend, Brad, and he's an author today, and has been nominated for, a Pulitzer? So he's a very good friend. Like pieces of my life in the past that are still attached.
It must be a drag to have been in a Norman Lear show that was his only not blockbuster success.
It's funny. There was 2 NBC shows vying for the space. There was only space for one, and the one that went was Facts of Life.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. So,
and Norman Lear just turned 100. Yeah, and he's still working.
Yeah,
still working.
Yeah,
really something else. Yeah, it's amazing.
Had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times. He's just a guy you would want to hang out with.
He's a lovely man. Yeah. My wife Mindy and I met him.
He's really
a lovely man. Yeah, he could not be nicer and accommodating. I'm going to switch gears a little bit on a real strange question that Jeremy asks, and I wanted to get your reactions to it. What was the response from fans when Barry and Chris played a gay couple on that '70s show? What was that?
I think, everyone was cool, but I think everyone kind of expected it.
Oh, really?
I'm so kidding. I will say, I don't recall much of a big uproar on that, but our mediums have changed so much then. If we had had Twitters and Instagrams and Facebooks and people could, offer their feedback about that, I'm sure there would have been a lot more expression, but it seemed, when did we do that? It seemed to play very well. It was the last episode they taped of all their years. Mm-hmm.
So it was after the advent of the smartphone. So, there were
some
social media. Some.
But to answer the question, I don't recall any kind of, negative feedback or that kind of thing.
Please yourself. Ultimately at the end of the day, that's my motto. So, I very much enjoyed working on that set. It was a funny scene, and anytime you can make people laugh, it's rewarding. Yeah. And even in having to kiss Barry, I had a good time.
Now that's an interesting thing. The director of that show did all of the episodes, and we had many directors on our show, but their director did all of them. He came to me before we filmed the scene, and he said, "Now look, Barry, if you're not comfortable in this scene with kissing Chris, I understand." and we don't. I looked up and I went, "Are you out of your mind? That's the whole reason we're here." It's like, I mean, it really was nice, but I can't believe that he was genuine about that. The whole purpose of that thing, the whole scene climaxed with us celebrating a touchdown or something on a football game we were watching on TV, and we hug and give each other a peck. I think everyone would have been very disappointed.
And I will explain for Barry what he means by that's the whole reason we were there is it was so unexpected that we're playing a gay couple and we're recognizable.
And
that's
we weren't playing Brady's, by the way. We were not playing Brady's. We were playing next door neighbors, the gay couple that moved in next door.
Right. And that's the part that worked in this context.
And by the way, I would not have done that scene if we were playing Brady's.
Right. No, that would have been the wrong comment on the character, unless it was a dream sequence. But Barry wouldn't.
Don't like it.
No. So it wasn't my lips that Barry was looking forward to, and the whole reason he was there. Just want to make that clear, though. Because we talked about this before we went live. I'm concrete, and I don't want to be corrected later. Just make clear that Barry was looking forward to the outcome of the scene, the humor in the scene,
and the payday.
Right, and the payday.
I'm going to throw one in here. Ed asks, as I always do this, when we talk about dream sequences, this is a little pet peeve of mine. I've always felt like they it's like a cop out. Like Dallas ended with the whole thing was a dream. There've been a number of other ones. I thought the one that worked, though, I don't know if you guys would agree with me, would be the end of Newhart, the second Newhart, where, if you guys recall, Bob gets bopped on the head or he hits himself on a door jamb, falls down, and next thing you know, he's in bed with Suzanne Plachette going, I just had the weirdest dream. I was an innkeeper in Vermont.
That because it ties it together, and I think that would work. Yes, yeah. And I'm not a fan of the okay. You go through an hour and a half or 2 hours of watching a movie, and then at the end they go, okay, only kidding.
Right.
It's abusive, but if you have a series that needs to change course, it's a beautiful way of doing it. All of a sudden you wipe away all the reality that you've been watching over the years, and now we wake up to a new reality. Yeah, I think actually the dream sequence also worked in the Brady Bunch with the basketball.
Yes,
that moment of the basketball falling down the stairs repetitively, and there's genius forced upon the producers when the show was running short. That's the reason why the ball bounces as many times as it does, because they needed to fatten it. They needed to add 10 seconds or 15 seconds. And hey, let's just make the basketball continue to replay down the stairs.
But typically when it's used as a device, Chris, I think a dream sequence is used to pretend that something happened that didn't happen. And in that,
or the other way.
And that sequence that you're talking about was a reinforcement of what did happen.
The fact is, what a dream does is it's like multiple. It's like parallel universes. As soon as we have to get into that, I have enough trouble just in the here and now.
That was a multi-layered situation, but kind of a cute way out. And maybe better than Seinfeld ending up in jail. So
I might agree with you on that one. I still think Jerry's defending it.
No, we didn't know. We thought we were coming back, so we didn't do a send off episode.
Melted away.
What we did was have multiple reunion shows.
Right.
We're still here.
People love them. This is, in a way, kind of a reunion program in a different way, which I really love about it. Robert asked the following. He just watched the Brady Bunch episode, My Brother's Keeper. And we don't normally address specific episodes in the Q&A, just so the audience knows, because we cover these. Normally they get covered when we do the episodic recap, but this was an interesting question. It says, all of the boys referred to the hedges as the stupid hedges. Was this in the script or was it ad-libbed?
Good question.
Very good question. And when we do that episode.
When we do that.
We'll know.
We'll look into it.
I'm pretty sure it would have been in there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a while.
I mean, the hedgerow is always stupid. Out here in the West Coast, we don't really have like hedges like they have in areas where plants grow because there's more abundant water. But we did have these things called juniper bushes. I remember because when we played baseball in the street, the ball would roll into the juniper bush, which was just really nasty and gnarly to try to get the ball out from under because it had little stickers in it. And that was sort of our equivalent to hedges. Barry might have had hedges because he lived in a very, what would you say, grown neighborhood. I lived out where the neighborhood was new and just past dirt. Barry was in an older neighborhood.
It was more mature. Yes, it was.
Chris was in like the Poltergeist neighborhood where everything was brand new.
Of course, I had hedges, Chris, and I have them now too. Because we have a lot of water here in Branson, and I have juniper bushes. I just planted 9 of them in my backyard.
Wonderful.
There you go. So you can have a hedge and a juniper bush.
You can have your cake and eat it
Lucky
too.
You.
One last. Mark asks this. I was always a fan of the show Battle of the Network Stars. And in fact, somebody I work with actually did the one in Malibu, which was quite fun. That's the one you guys did. But the Bradys never showed up there. They did, however, appear on Star Games and kicked butt. I was wondering what that experience was like and if they remember how great they were, especially Barry and Mike in the swimming competitions.
Barry was phenomenal in the swimming.
I'm a swimmer.
But,
I grew up in the water. Yeah, and I was a competitive swimmer, and I was swimming before I could walk. And the surfing thing is for real. And I had a pool, and that's what I did to wake up in the morning. Was I'd swim like 40 laps, and then get in the shower and drive to the set. We did do very well in that. Then Bruce Jenner was the host. I remember a lot about it. It was filmed out in Palm Springs, and we had a great time. And actually, I thought we might have been able to advance into the very final round. I think we had a shot of winning this thing. It was great fun to do. And I never know what decisions go into how certain people advance and some people don't. But some people stop the stopwatch when it's supposed to stop, and sometimes it keeps going. You never know.
I can't even recall how ultimately it ended, but remember it was fun.
Yeah,
well, that's great.
And I think battle.
We had running, relay, we had swimming, we had bikes. Yeah, well, the bike thing is where it got kind of cross-eyed. Kind of got crossed up. But anyway, it'd be a fun thing to go. When we get through all our episodes, we can start going through all the activities we did.
What time do you wake up and brush your teeth? We can get into the daily chores. We can do whatever you want. Hedges are a big thing. We'll do hedges.
Yeah, clipping your hedges.
8 minutes after 7 is when I brush my teeth.
YouTube video.
Right. You don't need
it's
to
know a podcast.
That. Barry will do the brushing your teeth video. I will do retrieving your baseball from
right. And I'll sit around listening to my old radio air checks and going, oh my God, that was over and over again. Guys, that was great. It was both a CNA and a Q&A this week. Number 15, terrific. More questions are welcome.
But please, if we need more correction,
do not hesitate.
Do not
go
shy.
right ahead. We get to as many as we can. We do get dozens every week, and we do our best. So be patient with us. We do what we can to serve you. Yes, this is Ed Mann, executive producer of The Real Brady Bros. And again, the Facebook page at Real Brady Bros. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Chris.
Brady on.
Thank you.
You're finally at that hot new spot, the one your friends keep raving about, sitting across from your date. It's going...
Another round?
Really well. And that dish you've been dying to try, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
When you shop at a Walmart Vision Center, you get it. You know that you'll spend a little less on stylish glasses for the whole family.
Welcome to the Vision Center. Let me know if you need help finding the perfect frames.
Hey, Mom, you were right. These glasses are cool.
Hon, they take our insurance. That means Papa's getting a new pair, too.
Whoa, glasses start at just $39. Next stop, groceries.
So you can get a little more of what you need. Find a Vision Center near you. Save money, live better. Walmart.